back in to help people have a better quality of life. When I think of the $10 a day childcare and why I'm a huge supporter of that program, is the fact that I have hundreds of single mothers who will say to me, I can't go anywhere, I can't get an education because I can't afford childcare. Well, now children are in childcare and they are in school, or they are getting jobs that long term they won't end up as a senior in poverty because of having access to these programs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I want to thank the member for that. That is all the time we have for that round. We'll go to statements by members. The honourable member for Oakville North Burlington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our Liberal family lost one of its most loved members, Jim Higgins, to colon cancer on September 13th. Jim was one of the first people I met when I sought the nomination in Oakville North Burlington. He worked in finance, mostly in the automotive industry, so it only made sense that he is the only treasurer that Oakville North Burlington Liberals have ever had. Even when facing difficult cancer treatments over the last 3 years, Jim continued to manage the books right up to the end. Jim was a passionate Liberal with a strong moral compass and sense of social justice. His cozy English pub-style basement was the location of many gatherings when Jim and Tamara warmly welcomed people into their home. He was devoted to his wife Tamara and his family, who were grieving his loss, along with his many friends and colleagues. Canada is a better place because of Jim Higgins. Rest in peace, my friend.
The honourable member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, as the world mourns the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, I know that the city of Estvan is also mourning the loss of a man who was a pillar of the community, Ross LeBlanc. He passed away on August 29th at the age of 86, leaving the legacy that will carry on for generations to come. Ross LeBlanc embodied the very definition of a hard-working farmer and saw the development of farming technology go from horse-drawn equipment to hydraulic automated systems. While his sons took over the farming business, Ross was still on the farm watching the harvest just a few days before his passing. Ross was also known for his music, performing as part of the Ross LeBlanc Trio. And I recall just a couple of months ago coming across hearing them play at the Red Barn at Knossi Lake. A huge supporter of the Estvan Bruins hockey team from their inception, he purchased the team's first bus and attended every game he could. I'd like to extend my condolences to his wife, Mary, their children, Gwen, Marlon, and Jason, and his many grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Ross was an incredible man, and he will be deeply missed.
The honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, I had the pleasure of attending the 70th anniversary of HoC, a Davenport-based organization founded by the Italian-Canadian community to assist Italian immigrants. Since then, HoC has grown into a much-beloved multicultural agency, welcoming newcomers and refugees of all nationalities to Canada. In recent years, HoC has been instrumental in settling thousands of Syrian refugees, thousands of Afghan refugees, and are now helping to settle Ukrainians who are fleeing the unprovoked and illegal invasion by President Putin. I want to thank President Pina Albarelli Arone, incoming CEO Samina Sami, and their incredible team of dedicated staff and volunteers for HoC's remarkable work and accomplishments. I also want to congratulate award winners OCASI Executive Director Debbie Douglas, Danby CEO Jim Estill, and Paramount Fine Foods President Mohamed Faki for their inspiring and exceptional work in settling newcomers. For 7 decades, the vital work of HoC has built the layers of immigrants that are now proud to call Canada their home, and their contributions to Canada have made us a stronger and better country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In August, I had the honour to participate in a parliamentary mission to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the Dieppe raid. This operation, also known as the Dieppe disaster, took place on August 19th, 1942 in France in the middle of World War II. Of the 6,000 Allied soldiers who participated in the landing, less than half of them made it out alive. The Régiment des Fusiliers Mont-Royal, the only French-speaking unit that participated, sent 584 men, and only 117 came home. a dark day, but without question, the highlight of my mission was meeting Gordon Fennell, a Quebecer from Montreal, and one of the few survivors of the operation. Gordon Fennell reached the venerable age of 100 and was with us on the beach in Dieppe 80 years later. In Dieppe, Gordon Fennell, who's listening to us now, was awarded the Légion d'honneur, the highest civilian award in France. Mr. Fennell, thank you. Thank you for your service. The Honourable Member for Sherbrooke.
This week, communities across Canada are joining together to recognize National Coaches Week. The goal of the week is to celebrate the tremendous responsibility coaches have in creating a positive impact on our athletes and communities.
Over the course of this week, thousands of coaches will receive a thank you coach message and will be invited to participate in numerous activities, including online clinics and free virtual workshops. This summer in Sherbrooke, I had a front row seat at the Legion Games to appreciate the contribution coaches like Sandrine Charon make to athletes. Congratulations to the coaches who will get the recognition they deserve for the work they do to help Canadians be active and healthy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Perth Wellington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After she was diagnosed with triple-negative metastatic breast cancer, local teacher Heidi Schlumpf used her 34th birthday on September 8th, 2021 to spread acts of kindness with the hashtag Put a Kind Deed in Your Feed. Sadly, Heidi passed away on August 10th of this year, but her legacy of kindness continued on what would have been her 35th birthday. Across the area and beyond, friends, students, loved ones, and complete strangers use the occasion to spread acts of kindness. Tim Hortons gift cards left on car windshields, homemade cookies given to seniors, pancake breakfasts at local schools, and diners surprised with free lunches. More than anything, these acts of kindness leave a wonderful legacy for her husband and their 3 children, Priska, Daisy, Alice, and Conrad. Mr. Speaker, we would all live in a better world with a little more acts of kindness in our lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, today let us once again recognize the legacy of Terry Fox, one of Canada's greatest heroes and certainly Port Coquitlam's hometown hero. At the age of 18, Terry lost his leg to cancer, and after 16 months in and out of cancer wards, he decided that he could not ignore the suffering that he saw. In 1980, Terry began his Marathon of Hope. In 143 days, he ran more than 5,300 kilometers and raised millions of dollars for cancer research. In his name, Terry's Marathon of Hope continues today, and Canadians have raised more than $850 million to find a cure. Son histoire.
His story inspires us all. His dedication and his courage are a source of inspiration for what we can accomplish.
Canadians across the country participate in Terry Fox runs. Terry's memory will lead us all forward, and together we will end cancer once and for all.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I was visited by an extraordinary 8-year-old boy who is challenging the stigma of living with autism. His name is Fabrizio Celenza, and he shared the following words with me. I don't talk about autism for sympathy or pity. I talk about it to open a door into our lives to help others understand, to educate, and build acceptances for children and adults living with autism. Fabrizio is a young ambassador for Project Lifesaver, a community-based organization that utilizes technology to help protect and quickly locate individuals with cognitive disorders who are prone to the behavior of wandering. Mr. Speaker, autism awareness starts in our community. 2 organizations advancing this in the City of Vaughan are the Shining Through Center for Autism and Waves of Changes for Autism. This evening, I will attend the latter's 7th annual gala with several hundred attendees. But in the wise words of my newest friend, Fabrizio Celenza, let's always remember that it's okay to be different. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Flamborough Glenbrook.
Mr. Speaker, the new Conservative leader will put people first, their retirement, their paychecks, their homes, and their country. Mr. Speaker, inflation is driving up the cost of everything. Last weekend, I heard this over and over from people in Bimbrook, the kind of place where young families are moving in droves to escape the high cost of housing in the GTA, only to find out that because of the policies of this government, the cost of living is no better there. At the fall fair, over 500 constituents stopped by my booth and filled out a survey card, and the results were overwhelming. Grocery prices, gas prices, taxes have them worried. The last thing that they can afford is the proposed tax increases from this government. But we have hope. By tackling Liberal inflation, we'll put you back in control of your life and your money. A Conservative government will put a lid on taxes and truly deliver affordability for suburban families in Bimbrook, Southern Ontario, and all across Canada.
The honourable member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, I'm honoured to be back in the House after a productive summer in my riding of Mississauga, Erin Mills. In between attending over 160 community meetings and events and visiting local businesses and bringing ministers to Erin Mills to hear directly from residents about local issues, I once again hosted my annual barbecue where we welcomed over 4,500 residents. I joined colleagues in representing Canada at the 65th Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference in Halifax. I joined a delegation in New York as part of the IPU for a UN high-level political forum on sustainable development. Last week, I joined the Minister for International Development and MPs to visit flood-impacted regions of Pakistan to hear directly from those in need. I'm proud that our Canadian government has stepped up with over $30 million in support. It's been a busy summer, Mr. Speaker, and I look forward to working with members in this House as we continue to deliver on programs that Canadians are counting on us for. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
The new Conservative leader will put people first, their retirement, their paychecks, their homes, and their country. Right now, we lose wages because we import 130,000 barrels of overseas oil every single day because our government prefers dirty dictator oil to responsible Canadian energy. We will repeal this government's anti-energy laws and replace them with a law that protects our environment, consults First Nations, and gets things built. And within 5 years, we will set the goal to end dictator oil in Canada altogether. Instead of helping Putin sell his natural gas to Europe to finance his war against Ukraine, a Poilievre government will support projects like GNL Quebec. Some people prefer that natural gas money finance Putin's weapons of war. I want that money to finance paychecks for our energy workers across the nation.
I know we've been away all summer, but I just want to remind the honourable members that when we're referring to someone else in the chamber, regardless of who it is, by their title or by the riding they represent, not by their own name. We tend to get carried away sometimes, and those things happen in the chamber. The honourable member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, the new Conservative leader will put people first. They'll put their retirement first, their paychecks first, their homes first, and their country first. We will bring hope to doctors, nurses, and engineers, and hope to others who are immigrants to this country but are blocked from working in their profession for no other reason than that they come from another country. We'll team up with provinces to guarantee that within 60 days, an immigrant applying to work in their profession will get a yes or no based on their tested abilities, not based on where they're from. We'll back up 30,000 small study loans for those in need of time off work to study up to the Canadian standard. And Mr. Speaker, it's enough talk. Remove the gatekeepers. Let's get more doctors, more nurses, more engineers, and more inflation-proof paychecks for our brilliant immigrants.
The honourable member for Mississauga, Streetsville.
Mr. Speaker, Speaker, this summer I had a wonderful time connecting with residents, attending community events, and marking special celebrations in my riding of Mississauga Streetsville. I'm excited to share that on Saturday, September 17th, our team, my family, the MP from Davenport, and community gathered at the Portuguese Cultural Center of Mississauga, and together we broke the Guinness World Record for the largest Portuguese folk dance. In honor of this achievement, the Portuguese Cultural Center has pledged to raise money for Canadians with physical and mental disabilities. This world record would not be set without the hundreds of individuals who took part in this special feat. I extend my warmest congratulations to the Portuguese Cultural Center and to all those who helped achieve this incredible new record. Obrigada e parabéns. Congratulations and well done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Churchill-Kiiwetinoong-Aski.
Mr. Speaker, the new Conservative leader and the Prime Minister may disagree on some things, but when it comes to standing with the billionaire class, they're both just in bed with their corporate buddies. Unlike the Liberals, the Conservatives don't stand with working people. They're unwilling to tax the ultra-rich. They're unwilling to stop the billion-dollar giveaways to big oil, and they're unwilling to take the steps necessary to end the housing crisis in this country. But Canadians are increasingly tired of the games of these two parties, both the silver-tongued snake oil of the opposition leader and the entitlement of the Prime Minister. Canadians struggling to get by need real action. Far too many Indigenous communities lack basic housing. More than half of Canadians are $200 from insolvency. In this Parliament, Liberals and Conservatives are competing on who can better fight for the billionaire class. But it's the NDP that is fighting to deliver true justice to Canadians.
The honourable member for Abitibi James Bay, Nunavik, AU. Mr. Speaker, Oscar Kistabish, president of the Val-d'Or Friendship Centre, has received the First People's Medal from the Lieutenant Governor of Quebec. The First People's Medal aims to recognize an exceptional contribution from members of the First Nations and the Inuit Nation. This recognition highlights the career of remarkable individuals who, through their achievements, their involvement, and their commitment, contribute to the influence of their community, their nation, or First Peoples in Quebec, in Canada, or internationally. A highly respected elder of the Pickawgan Anishinaabe community, he has devoted a good part of his life to the development of traditional culture and Indigenous spirituality. He remains an important figure in the transmission of ancestral Anishinaabe culture in the area. It should also be mentioned that he shares his experiences, teachings, and acts as a spiritual guide for the survivors to, in his words, put people on a path toward healing. Thank you for everything, Mr. Kitsabish.
Member for Foothills.
The new Conservative leader will put people first. Their homes, their paychecks, their retirements, their country. By contrast, under the Liberals, Canadians are struggling to put food on the table, fuel in their cars, and heating their homes. Rising housing prices and interest rates have made the dream of home ownership impossible for young Canadians. Our seniors are watching their retirement savings disappear as a result of just inflation. And now the Liberals want to triple the carbon tax, impacting farmers in every corner of this country. I want to be clear. This isn't a Western issue. This isn't a rural issue. This is a Canadian issue. Food costs are up 10%, the highest inflation in 40 years. Fertilizer policy, tariffs, tripling fuel taxes will drive the cost of food even higher. Whether you live in Okotoks or Ottawa, this impacts every single Canadian, every single consumer. The Liberals must abandon their planned tax hikes on food, fuel, and paychecks. Our Canadian food sovereignty and affordability depends on it.
The honourable member for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, the day was September 28, 1972. The time was 2:30 p.m. It was the third period, there was 34 seconds left to play, and the goal heard around the world won the critical game between Canada and the Soviet Union. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the Summit Series. The players were legends then and they're legends now. While Paul Henderson scored 7 times in 8 games, even scoring the game winner in Game 7, it was his goal 2 days later that earned him the most famous goal in Canadian history. I think of those legends often, Mr. Speaker. Some will be here today. Some served in this chamber, like the Honourable Kem Dryden. But one more needs to be in the Hall of Fame, and that's Paul Henderson. Mr. Speaker, Lester B. Pearson said, "This fastest of all games has become almost as much a national symbol as the Maple Leaf." He was right, and that day cemented hockey in the minds of all Canadians forever. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions. Question orale. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
C'est bon de voir le
Thank you. It's good to see the Prime Minister here visiting Canada to fill up the gas on his private jet. But if things are bad on the ground in Canada, if the Financial Post says that in Toronto, students are living in shelters for the homeless, the use of food banks is at record highs in history. It is really the worst time to increase costs for Canadians. Will the Prime Minister cancel the tax increases on gas, heating, food, and paychecks? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to start by congratulating once again the member for Carleton, who is now the Leader of the Official Opposition. And seeing as we are all back in the House of Commons now, I know that we have a lot of work to do this fall together. On this side of the House, we will focus on help for Canadians to create an economy that works for everyone. We will invest in creating more housing to counter the cost of living, to fight climate change, to help the middle class, and to help make communities safer, and to put more money back into the most vulnerable families in Canada. And we hope that all Canadians will work with us. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Has effectively admitted that his carbon tax has not worked, and therefore he needs to triple it. According to the Liberal Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, the forthcoming hike in the carbon tax will mean that the total cost for a Newfoundland senior living in the countryside on their heating bill will have been 80%. Canadians cannot afford that. But just for clarity, if you are a Newfoundland senior, how much will your home heating bill rise as a result of the forthcoming hike in the Liberal carbon tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, like all parliamentarians, we have each heard stories from Canadians who are struggling with the high cost of living, with the inflation that's been caused by the global crisis. That's why we're putting forward concrete measures that are going to help Canadians. We're going to double the GST tax credit that's going to hit millions of families with extra support. We're delivering on support for low-income families on dental, and we're also moving forward with support for low-income renters. The Leader of the Opposition has an opportunity to support these measures and get help directly to Canadians. I hope he does exactly that.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, the Leader of the Liberal Party has an opportunity to respect the fact that heating your home in January and February in Canada is not a luxury. And it does not make those Canadians polluters. They're just trying to survive. This from a Prime Minister who burned more jet fuel in 1 month than 20 average Canadians burn in an entire year. So will the Prime Minister ground the jet, park the hypocrisy, and axe the tax hikes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we're going to continue to stay focused on direct and real help for Canadians, responding to the challenges they're facing with meaningful measures that are going to help millions of Canadians in the middle class and those working hard to join it. If Canadians had followed the advice of the Leader of the Opposition and invested in volatile cryptocurrencies in an attempt to, quote, opt out of inflation, they would have lost half of their savings. Mr. Speaker, responsible leadership means stepping up for Canadians and being there to support them. Will the Conservative Leader support our measures to support Canadians?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We will not support tax hikes on Canadians. Speaking of tax hikes, they plan to raise taxes on paychecks. Now, yesterday, the Finance Minister claimed that all the EI tax hikes that they would collect would go to EI benefits. In fact, I looked it up over the next 3 years. they're going to collect $10 billion more in EI taxes than they pay out in EI benefits, allowing the Prime Minister to grab up the difference and use it to feed his insatiable spending appetites. Canadians can't afford a bigger bite off their paychecks. Will the Prime Minister cancel his tax hikes on Canadian paychecks?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think in this House it's important to look at the facts. And the facts are that when the Leader of the Opposition was the Minister responsible for employment insurance, premiums were 20% higher for workers than they are now. That's right. Workers paid 20% more. That's why we're continuing to move forward to support workers. On the issue of the CPP, we promise to be there for workers as they become seniors to help them with their retirements, and that's exactly what we did. And in regards to pricing pollution, we promised it would no longer be free to pollute anywhere in this country, and it no longer is. That's what we're focused on.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister is quite wrong. Today, payroll taxes on the average $60,000 a year worker are about $700 higher than when we left office. And by the way, we left with a balanced budget. Now, he wants to raise those taxes even further. Bigger bite off Canadian paychecks at a time when inflation is at a 40-year high, when students are forced to live in homeless shelters, and when home ownership rates are at the lowest level in a generation. Doesn't he understand that now is the worst time to raise taxes? Will he cancel those tax hikes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition wants to go back in time. Let's look at what he was doing when he was in government. He continued to deliver child benefit checks to millionaire families, which we ended when we took office. And then he voted against raising taxes on the wealthiest 1% so we could lower them on the middle class. And he voted against a Canada Child benefit that delivers hundreds of dollars a month tax-free to every Canadian family. We've seen where this Leader of the Opposition stands. On this side of the aisle, we're going to stay focused on helping Canadians for real.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to start by expressing my joy that the Prime Minister is here with us once again. I missed him, Mr. Speaker. And we will no longer need the NDP to tell us what the Liberals think. We can take up our work once again, and now that the tributes to the monarchy have been given. And we're talking about singing, and now I'd like to talk about this to the Prime Minister, because there are singers and creators who are Francophone who saw their royalties paid to English-speaking artists. Does he have the intention, does the Prime Minister have the intention to ensure that this does not continue? The Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as a government, and particularly during the pandemic, but in the last 7 years, we have always been there for artists throughout this country. We know how much of a contribution our artists make to our identity, to our culture as well, the culture that we share with the world, and we will always be there to defend our artists. It's important to make sure that everyone is treated equally, and that's what we're doing. The member for Belleuil-Chambly. Yes, that's the same answer we hear for every question. It's always an empty answer. So we know that the Copyright Council can make sure that royalties are distributed fairly. If the government doesn't know what to do, well, we know what to do. Two things. First, artists have to be paid fairly in any way required. And we have to make sure that this situation does not happen again in the future. Because once again, the Prime Minister will just say, oh, I'm concerned about the status of French, but he will do nothing. The Honourable Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we will always be there for artists. We will always recognize the essential work that they do. We recognize, and I recognize with pride, the extraordinary artists in Quebec who contribute enormously to Canadian culture and culture throughout the world. And that is why we will always be sure to ensure that all Canadians in Canada are remunerated fairly.
The high cost of living is hurting people. We've got a prime minister that could have listened to our plan in the spring to put more of people's own money back in their pockets, and people would have received that by July. But he was too busy telling people that things are worse in other countries. And then we've got a leader of the Conservative Party who can't figure out if they're for or against putting more money in people's pockets. New Democrats believe that people need respect. Why is this government taking so long to put more of their own money in Canadians' pockets to help them out to afford their groceries in this difficult time?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the very first bills we've put forward in this Parliament are focused on delivering for Canadians in the middle class and those working hard to join it who are struggling during these challenging times. We heard from Canadians from coast to coast to coast that they need more help. That's why we're stepping up by doubling the GST tax credit, by delivering more help for low-income renters, and by ensuring that families with kids under 12 who are struggling to pay and make ends meet can deliver dental care for those kids. These are initiatives that I think all of us should be able to get behind, and I hope all parliamentarians will support them to help Canadians as quickly as possible.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. The cost of living is rising and it's hurting people, but we have a Prime Minister who's saying that it's worse in other countries rather than taking action, and we have a leader of the Conservative Party who thinks that we can opt out of inflation by buying cryptocurrencies. We have one party that says nothing, another party that does nothing, and we are acting to help people. That's what we're doing. So why is it that those two leaders are not acting to help people out in these difficult times? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have all heard from our constituents. We are members of Parliament. We've heard from families in our ridings who are having a difficult time. And that is why the first bills that have been tabled now here in the fall have been to help Canadians through direct assistance with the GST credit that will be doubled and with more money for low-income renters as well. And we are going to help families with the cost of dental care for their youngest. And we are going to help, and we hope that all members of Parliament will help us with that. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Well, Mr. Speaker, let's talk about Canadians who are having a hard time and that this government says it wants to help. It's exactly the opposite. That's the opposite is happening. So bad news for Canadians. On January 1st, the government will increase the workers' tax. Also on April 1st, the Liberal carbon tax will triple. So it will cost more money for Canadian families to survive. So why can't the Prime Minister tell Canadians why he is increasing taxes when Canadians need more money in their own pockets? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Conservative MP. Yesterday, the member for Leeds, Thousand Islands, Grenville, Rideau Lake said that he could support our plan that would help with inflation for Canadian households. So that was good news. And I hope that the Conservative member will support his own colleague in his own party and will also convince all Conservatives to support our excellent plan. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, I am very happy to see the Prime Minister here in this House, particularly since he was able to see a number of his counterparts in the last few days. Do you know that Canada is the only G7 country that has not decreased taxes? Why is that? Because other countries understand that it'll help Canada, it'll help families to pay less income tax. So why is the Liberal government increasing taxes when it's going to hurt Canadian families even more? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this is yet another example of Conservative hypocrisy. The Conservatives are the ones who were against our measures to support the middle class. The Conservatives were against our tax cut for the middle class. The Conservatives were against the federal minimum wage of $15. The Conservatives were against giving up interest on federal loans to students.
Liberal tax hikes, inflation, and never-ending spending is crushing Canadians. Even the Bank of Canada admits that this Prime Minister's spending spree should have ended long ago. Failed Liberal policies are making eating, heating, and driving a luxury in this country. More Canadians and newcomers are turning to food banks because feeding their family is becoming impossible. Will this government put an end to the suffering they're causing and cancel their planned tax increases?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government does recognize that times are tough for a lot of Canadians. And yesterday, I was pleased to learn that the member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes also recognizes that, and that he will support our plan to provide relief of nearly $500 per family for 11 million Canadian households. That's real support for the Canadians who need it the most. I hope all the members opposite will join us in supporting that plan.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Forest Road.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals continue punishing Canadians for heating their homes and driving to work, while this leave-it-in-the-ground, left-wing, climate-zealot government is happy shutting down essential energy projects and adding more taxes. Even the PBO says that the government's claim that any sort of carbon tax rebate helps families is misleading. In fact, 60% of households in my province of Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario are worse off because of the Liberals' climate virtue signaling. So will this government cancel their carbon tax hikes and put this suffering to an end that they're causing on Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Environment.
Speaker, we are totally focused on addressing the affordability challenge for Canadian families, and I know talking to my residents in the West and Winnipeg South, Mr. Speaker, they very much appreciate the measures the Finance Minister introduced the other day, and Mr. Speaker, that's why it's important that the price on pollution, the climate action rebate, will put more money in people's pockets, families' pockets, and very, very importantly, Mr. Speaker, the rebate checks are going to be in people's mailboxes in October. That's going to help with affordability. That's going to help families with cash flow.
For Barrie Innisfil.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government can misrepresent the facts on the carbon tax all they like, but Canadians know it costs them more. The Parliamentary Budget Officer confirms that the carbon tax will cost families more than they get back, and when the Liberals triple the tax on gas, heat, and groceries, it'll cost an Ontario household $1,500 more. Mr. Speaker, given the PBO's credibility and independence, I believe Canadians, and Canadians should believe him rather than the spin from the other side. So again, for the sake of every family struggling, will the government cancel their planned tax increases?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we know there are affordability challenges for Canadian families, and that's why our climate plan is designed so the majority of families receive more in climate action incentive payments than they pay at the pump. And, Mr. Speaker, I beg to differ, but the Parliamentary Budget Officer still remains that 8 out of 10 families will be better off. And, Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member will know, as the carbon price increases, also the climate action incentive payments increase, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Barrie Innisfil.
What a week this has been, sitting here listening to these Liberals justify their inaction to solve the inflation and cost of living crisis that they've created, and things are simply getting worse. Canadian families are on bended knees under the weight of trying to afford the necessities of life. And what's their solution? It's to pile on the misery with planned tax increases on gas, groceries, and home heating by increasing the carbon tax. For the sake of every Canadian family who's struggling, Mr. Speaker, will the government cancel their planned tax increases?
The Honourable Minister.
Come into government, we have done everything we can to support Canadian families, which is the exact opposite of what the Conservatives have done. In fact, Mr. Speaker, they voted against the tax cut for middle-class families. In fact, Mr. Speaker, they voted against the Canada Child Benefit, which sends thousands of dollars to Canadian families in need every single year. And, Mr. Speaker, they're against the National Child Care Initiative that we have that is reducing child care fees by 50% for families with children in childcare. Mr. Speaker, we know the difficulties it is and the high cost of raising children, and we are there for Canadian families, and we'll continue to do that. Thank you, Mr.
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, representatives of workers who are unemployed are in Ottawa today. The spokesperson for the National Council of the Unemployed and the representative of the Montreal Unemployed Council even walked here. They have come to tell the Prime Minister that he must keep his promise to reform unemployment, to overhaul it. And in the meantime, it is unacceptable to end the temporary measures on Sunday. They walked 200 kilometers to tell him that. Can the Prime Minister rise and announce that he will extend the temporary measures? Mr. Speaker, I met with the representative of the National Council of the Unemployed and with the Guild of Musicians of Quebec, with the Quebec Union as well, and we talked about an employment insurance system that would be fairer, that would be more agile, and that would meet the needs of workers better. And I said that we would extend the benefits from 12 to 15 weeks, and they were very happy to hear that we're going to work together to modernize the EI system. The member for Thérèse de Blainville. Seriously, Mr. Speaker, and yes, that's not everything. The Canada Labour Congress, the Quebec Construction Union, the Guild of Musicians of Quebec, and members of the CNC are all on Parliament Hill to say that they do not accept to have the Prime Minister create this uncertainty for workers as of Sunday. Without reform of the EI system, what it means that going back to the old system will abandon 70% of the workers who would need it. Will the Prime Minister correct the situation by Sunday? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, this morning we talked about how important the temporary measures were during the pandemic. We also said that, of course, there are some temporary benefit programs that are ending, but the regular EI benefits will continue for workers, and we are about to announce our long-term plan to improve the EI system. The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, ending the temporary measures for EI without a reform of the system means sending workers back to a program that was okay in the 70s. It was a program that leaves mothers who lose their jobs while they're on maternity leave in the lurch. And it also does not support workers who are severely ill. There is nothing for workers who work for themselves, for the self-employed. So really, it doesn't recognize that industries are seasonal, not that workers are seasonal. So is this really the social safety net that the Prime Minister wants to give Quebecers? The Honourable Minister. Our government thinks that EI benefits should be more equitable, more reactive, and must meet the needs of Canadian workers. That is why we have committed, in partnership with stakeholders, the ones that I met this morning, to really overhaul the EI system.
Mr. Speaker, people in Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou are struggling to put food on their table and fuel in their cars.
Yes, they are.
Now, we know that the Prime Minister doesn't think about monetary policy and the budget hasn't balanced itself. We also know that ordinary citizens are under extraordinary financial pressures. So my question to the Prime Minister is this, Mr. Speaker. Will he cancel tax hikes that are planned so that we can give ordinary Canadians a break?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
If the member opposite bothered to read the Fiscal Monitor, he'd know that the budget was actually in surplus for 5 months this spring. But I have a question for him, which is, I'd like to know,
I just want to remind the honourable members that the honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou asked a question. He wants to be able to hear the answer. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister from the top, please, so that the honourable member can hear the full answer.
Well, thank Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And since the member seems interested in the economy, I want to give him an opportunity to clarify a point of Conservative policy. I'd like to ask him if he agrees with the Conservative leader that crypto is a good way to, quote, opt out of inflation. Does he agree with the Conservative leader's reckless advice to Canadians to invest in Bitcoin? Since the leader gave that advice, Bitcoin has crashed by 56%. Canadians who invested according to his advice would have seen their life savings destroyed. Is that their economic policy, Mr. Speaker?
Honourable member for Medicine Hat, Carson Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think this minister thinks that she's in opposition, and she will be soon enough. Paychecks are already not keeping up with the Liberal tax hikes and the just inflation crisis. Canadians are falling further behind, and they're becoming desperate and are losing hope. This government and its ministers are failing Canadians, and the responses today are further proof of their inability to provide viable solutions and restore hope. Will this government cancel the payroll taxes on Canadians' paychecks?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government's approach is both fiscally responsible and compassionate. The Conservatives' approach is neither. Do the Conservatives really think that a family of four earning just $35,000 a year couldn't use $500 this fall to buy groceries? Do they think a low-income essential worker who is struggling to pay her rent couldn't use an extra $500? We know Canadians need this support. We know it's part of a AAA-rated fiscally responsible approach, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for King Vaughan.
Grazie, Signore Presidente. Frank, a father in my riding of Vaughan, is struggling to support his family of four. He currently works 2 jobs in order to put food on the table and gas in his car. These are not luxury items, and they struggle to afford the necessities, are taking a serious toll on his mental health and well-being. Will this government cancel their planned tax increase on Frank and all Canadian taxpayers?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Grazie per la domanda, signora. We understand that Canadians are going through a difficult time, and we understand they need support. Now, we heard yesterday that there is at least one Conservative MP who understands that our doubling of the GST tax credit makes sense today. I'd like to ask all the Conservatives who I really would like to believe the Conservatives share our sincere desire to help Canadians. Join us with this measure. It will help tutti I canadesi.
Good job,
Yeah, l'honorable député de Rosemont.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, the pandemic has exposed the fact that the employment insurance system is less than ideal. During the emergency, the Liberals patched things up with temporary measures. Whilst promising that there would be real in-depth reform, the emergency measures end on Saturday. On Sunday, therefore, thousands of people will find themselves back on the old system that does not work. The unemployed deserve respect. Women, seasonal, part-time workers and freelancers all deserve respect. Will the Liberals wake up, or will they send workers to be pushed around by a regime set up by the leader of the Conservative Party? The Honourable Minister for Labour. Mr. Speaker, we are committed to fully modernising the EI system in Canada, of course. Some temporary programs, some temporary benefits during the pandemic are coming to an end, but standards and standing benefits will continue like before the pandemic. We look forward to launching our long-term plan. We are looking forward to offering 26 weeks of sick leave before December. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, while Canadians are struggling, oil companies are making record profits. Last quarter alone, Imperial Oil made $2.4 billion. New Democrats have been calling for a tax on these excess profits to help put more money back in people's pockets. But the Liberals have refused. Now the UN Secretary General is calling on countries to implement a windfall tax on big polluters. Will the Prime Minister finally do the right thing and make big oil pay their fair share?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government has been and continues to be committed to be sure everyone in Canada pays their fair share. That's why we're permanently raising the corporate income tax by 1.5% on the largest, most profitable banks and insurance companies. And that's why we introduced a recovery dividend of 15% on the excess profits of these institutions during COVID. We've implemented, effective September 1st, a 10% luxury tax on private jets, luxury cars, and boats and yachts, Mr. Speaker.
L'Honorable Député de Sudbury.
Mr. Speaker, we know the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system is getting up and running from coast to coast to coast. Families in my hometown of Sudbury are already seeing the benefits of the transformative investments which Canada and provinces are making together. Can the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development update this House on the milestones that Sudbury has reached as this national system is built out?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to thank my colleague from Sudbury for that important question and for all of her hard work advocating on behalf of early learning and child care. I'm really pleased to announce that the City of Sudbury is moving forward with the Canada-wide early learning and child care agreement and has already begun issuing rebates to families in Sudbury. This is excellent news for families in Sudbury. I had the opportunity to visit Sudbury a couple of months ago to speak with providers and families about what this agreement means for them, and I'm excited to say that today they're delivering. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The burden of inflated cost of living is especially felt by Canadians living in rural communities like mine. In Northern Alberta, you have to heat your home. You must fill up your gas tank to travel for work, school, groceries, and medical appointments. As Liberals increase taxes to pay for their reckless spending, they are leaving so many rural Canadians in the dark as they struggle to make ends meet. Will the government cancel their planned tax increases on paychecks, gas, home heating, and groceries?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to talk to my honourable colleague across the way and tell her some things that we are doing. We know that high-speed internet is a connectivity issue for rural Canadians. Since 2015, Mr. Speaker, we've connected 1.2 million homes. By 2026, we're going to connect another 1.2 million homes. By 2026, Mr. Speaker, we'll have 98% of Canada connected to affordable, reliable, high-speed internet. That's going to help rural Canadians get on par with urban Canadians. That is truly going to help all Canadians. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Tobic-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, Atlantic Canadians and Canadians across the country are seeing their cost of living soar, including the cost to heat their homes. The Premier of Nova Scotia is concerned about the impacts of carbon pricing, saying, and I quote, almost 40% of Atlantic Canadians experience energy poverty, and by far the highest rate in the country, end quote. These constant increases are hurting Canadians. When will the Prime Minister get off the backs of Atlantic Canadians, put people first, stop these increases, and commit to no new taxes?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the honourable member for the question. And Mr. Speaker, we realize that there are very unique challenges in Atlantic Canada with the cost of living and, of course, the cost of fuel. We made a commitment to be there for them, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to say the Minister of Environment just last week announced $120 million from the Low Carbon Economy Fund to help Atlantic Canadians transition away from heating oil to clean energy. Also, Mr. Speaker, as you know, there's the home retrofit program, which also will help with energy efficiency and saving money for Atlantic Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Manning.
Mr. Speaker, my constituents Kerry Ross is increasingly frustrated with a Prime Minister who has forgotten working Canadians. After paying mortgage, utility bills, gas, food, childcare and school fees, Kerry and her husband are left with $200 each month. The family does not qualify for the GST benefit. Their child benefit has been reduced. What Kerry Ross wants to know is, will the Prime Minister cancel his planned tax increases on paychecks, gas, home heating, and groceries?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
I'm glad to hear the MP for Edmonton talk about the childcare costs his constituents are facing. I very much believe that one of the important ways our governments across the country can support hardworking Canadian families is by making childcare not a burden. For too many families, childcare is like a second mortgage. Thanks to our early learning and childcare plan, that burden is being lifted from Canadian families, and I'm pleased the province of Alberta has joined with us to do that for the members' constituents.
The Honourable Member for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
Speaker, with the Liberal carbon tax, input costs to heat a barn or dry grain have exploded. And I'm hearing daily from farmers how the Liberals' nonsensical fertilizer policy will devastate their businesses and increase the cost of food for Canadians even further. Many farms and farm families see Liberals' tax hikes as the killing blow. If farmers can't afford to live, they can't afford to grow the food we eat. It's simple. No farms, no food. Will the Liberals end their tax hikes on Canadian farmers?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The biggest threat to our food security is definitely the climate crisis. It's drought. When we face droughts or floods that we have done last summer, we are in big troubles for our food production. And this is why we are partnering with farmers. We are providing them with financial incentives so they can adopt good practices, reduce emissions, be more resilient in the face of the climate crisis. We're there to support farmers, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, let's make one thing clear. Leaving Roxham Road open is not humane. It is encouraging a network of smugglers run by criminals who exploit the misery of the world. It is to be complicit in a business of desperation where criminals convince poor families on the basis of inaccurate information to pay up to $10,000 per person to cross these borders. A business made possible exclusively by the incompetence of the Canadian government in managing its borders and processing refugee claims. How can the government condone this? The Honourable Minister for Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we believe in a just and equitable system that protects the rights of refugees. We are working very closely with the Quebec government every year. We transfer hundreds of millions of dollars to welcome immigrants in Quebec, including refugees, and we have strengthened the integrity of our borders with a $321 million investment. It's good for Quebec. Refugees are contributing to Quebec, and they're contributing to our economies, and we'll continue like this. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, this is the height of hypocrisy, because once the migrants have arrived in Canada, the government is unable to process their refugee claims. They end up worrying for years, and after years, they find that it turns out that half of the families don't qualify as refugees, and then they are deported. So the federal government lets criminals lie to families and ruin them in order to cross the border. It makes honest families wait for years before finally sending them back to their country. The Federals are not helping migrants. They are helping criminals. Mr. Speaker, when will they suspend the Safe Third Country Agreement and end this inhumane racket? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, during the pandemic, we collaborated hand in hand with the Quebec government, with Mr. Legault's government, creating a safe path for refugees that have contributed in the first line of our healthcare system. That is just one example among many, showing how refugees have tangibly and positively contributed to our country, and will continue to strengthen the integrity of our borders with investments in order to add resources for the CBSA and other policing bodies, because here on this side of the House, we believe in a just and equitable system. Thank you.
Member for Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, just yesterday, the Justice Minister defended the Liberals' decision to eliminate mandatory jail time for crimes like robbery with a firearm, extortion with a firearm, weapons trafficking, and drive-by shootings. This was the very same day that his constituents in Montreal learned of yet another fatal shooting, this time at the Bell Centre, home of the Montreal Canadiens, a place where hockey fans and parents should be able to take their children and know that they're safe. When will this government act to protect Canadians and ensure that repeat violent offenders are put behind bars?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, serious crimes will always carry serious consequences. That is the basic principle. What we are trying to do, Mr. Speaker, with Bill C-5 is to make sure that we can concentrate our resources on those serious crimes, whether it's in the judicial system or whether it's enforcing our police officers.
I'm sorry, I was having a hard time hearing, and I'm sure the Honourable Member for Fundy Royal was having a hard time. Would the Honourable Minister mind starting from the top so that we can all hear the answer? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The fundamental point, Mr. Speaker, is that serious crimes will always carry serious consequences. What we are doing with Bill C-5, Mr. Speaker, is ensuring that we have more resources to focus on those serious crimes and ensure that our police authorities have more tools in their toolkit in order to deal with them. Mr. Speaker, former Justice of the Supreme Court, Michael Moldaver, in an article he published this week, told us that we should go precisely in that direction, to focus our resources on those serious crimes and incarcerate less people. And nobody, Mr. Speaker, can accuse Justice Moldaver of being soft on crime.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Speaker, Canadians expect that criminals convicted of sexual assault, kidnapping, and human trafficking serve their sentence from behind bars, but not be soft on crime liberals with their do no crime Bill C-5, which incredibly allows criminals convicted of these and other serious offences to serve their sentence from home. So, can the Liberals explain how letting loose into the community the likes of sexual predators, kidnappers, and human traffickers protects public safety?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, serious crimes such as those described by my honourable colleague will always carry serious consequences. What Bill C-5, Mr. Speaker, does is in cases where a sentence would be less than 2 years and, Mr. Speaker, most importantly, there would be no threat to public safety or public security, to allow for a better alternative to incarceration in those cases. This precisely allows us, Mr. Speaker, to focus our resources in the criminal justice system on those serious crimes, which we all agree we need to treat quite seriously.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, Canadians still cannot believe that this Prime Minister wishes to abolish minimum sentences for crimes like illegal importation, intentional discharge and robbery with a firearm. With the increase in violence and daylight killings on their streets, Montreal residents no longer recognise their city. For their part, gang members and organised crime are having a field day and looking forward to the adoption of Bill C-5. It gives more freedom to criminals, and people are locking themselves up because they're afraid. Does the Prime Minister commit to cancelling C-5? The Honourable Minister for Justice. Mr. Speaker, quite the contrary to what the Honourable Member has just said. Serious crimes will still have serious consequences in our system. What we are doing with Bill C-5 is abolishing a strategy that is chalking up the federal justice system, a system that has not worked, so that we may focus ourselves on serious crime that should have serious consequences, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle. Mr. Speaker, Canadians and Quebecers deserve to feel safe in their communities. The tragedies caused by gun violence in recent months only serve to underscore the importance of taking action to combat gun violence on all sides. Can the Minister for Public Safety explain what steps the government is taking to create safer communities? Thank you. The Honourable Minister for Public Safety. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague for her question. and I share her concerns. We are working very closely with the government of Quebec and municipal leaders like Mayor Plante to make our communities safer in Quebec. We've invested $46 million to support law enforcement in Quebec, $42 million to divert youth from a life of crime, and we continue to invest in strengthening our border to prevent illegal gun trafficking. We will be here for Montreal and Montrealers.
Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, the cost of this Liberal government is driving up the cost of living. Over the past number of months, I have met with too many constituents who are barely getting by. They're finding it more difficult to pay their bills, feed their families, and are worried about losing their homes. In short, Mr. Speaker, there is too much money, too much month left at the end of the money. They simply cannot afford higher taxes. Will the Prime Minister cancel his planned tax increases?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's important to be clear with Canadians what is actually being discussed. And Canadians understand that the CPP and EI contributions every working Canadian makes are how we all pay for our retirement and how we create a safety net for every Canadian in case they lose their jobs. At a time of global economic uncertainty, it is the height of irresponsibility for the Conservatives to suggest that we as a country stop putting money away for our retirement and for a rainy day. That's right.
The Honourable Member for Miramichi, Grand Lake.
Mr. Speaker, this government's carbon tax will mean a massive price increase to home heating oil compared to a year ago. To quote the Liberal Premier of Newfoundland, users of furnace oil in the province tend to be older, live in rural areas, and have lower incomes, lower than the provincial average. An increase in heating costs of 60% in 1 year already poses considerable economic hardships and stress on residents. Will the government cancel their planned tax increases on gas, home heating, and groceries today?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, Conservatives used to believe in market mechanisms and pricing to reduce pollution. Mr. Speaker, Stephen Harper did before he didn't. And, Mr. Speaker, the member for Durham did before his party abandoned prices and, in fact, abandoned him. The Conservatives have flip-flopped all over the place, Mr. Speaker, but I want to applaud one Conservative, Mr. Speaker, the member for New Brunswick Southwest, who says his province should go back to using the federal carbon price because at least it comes with rebates. I agree with that honourable member, Mr. Speaker.
Good job. The Honourable Member for Saskatoon Grasswood.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are looking for hope. Every day, Conservatives stand up in the House to tell the stories of real Canadians who are facing the worst financial struggles of their lives, thanks to the mismanagement of this government. Day after day in this House, Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government stands up and tells us how well Canadians are doing. Talk about a government being tone deaf, out of touch with Canadians. Will this government finally give Canadians hope and cancel the planned tax increases on paychecks?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the MP from Saskatchewan. Our government understands that Canadians need some support in the tough times we are going through right now. Apparently his colleague, the member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes, agrees with us, and he understands that our doubling of the GST tax credit will provide important relief for Canadian families. I would like to believe that the member who just spoke really cares for his constituents. I hope he will show that by supporting this useful measure.
The Honourable Member for Egmont.
Mr. Speaker, recently Canadian seafood and fishers have been targeted by an American organization questioning our efforts to protect the North Atlantic right whale. Can the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans outline the measures your department has taken working with fishers to protect North Atlantic right whales?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
I'd like to thank the member from Egmont for his question and also for his deep commitment to fish harvesters. Canada has world-class fisheries, Mr. Speaker, and that's thanks to our fish harvesters. With measures like dynamic closures, removing ghost gear, and whale-safe gear innovations, Canadian harvesters are very committed to protecting right whales. And it's working. So it turns out that thanks to their efforts, there has not been a whale mortality in Canadian waters for 3 years, Mr. Speaker. That's Canada's record, and we can all be proud of it.
The honourable member for Edmonton-Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, a generation of Canadians are struggling. From the cost of living to the student debt crisis, Canadian students and recent grads are falling behind. Instead of helping them get by, this federal government collected billions of dollars in student loan payments since 2020. As a result, Mr. Speaker, 65,000 Canadians have defaulted on their student loans. This out-of-touch Liberal government refuses to give young Canadians a break. When will the Liberal government start tackling the affordability crisis and cancel student debt?
The Honourable Minister of Labour for Employment.
Young Canadians and students are the future of Canada. With Budget 2022, we're investing $26 million over 4 years to increase the maximum amount of forgivable Canada loans by 50% in rural communities for healthcare workers. We had the students back every step of the way. Through Budget 2021, we made federal student loans interest-free until March 23. We also doubled Canada student grants, extended the Skills Boost top-up to help young Canadians really get through the pandemic. We are absolutely committed to permanently eliminating the federal interest on student loans and Canada Apprentice loans, and we will continue to help young Canadians.
The honourable member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, we are in a climate catastrophe while oil and gas companies make record profits on the backs of regular people. As raised earlier, the UN Secretary General is now calling for a windfall tax on these profits. Yet this federal government continues to do the opposite, giving more public funds to the very companies responsible for the crisis. When will this government listen to the UN and apply to oil and gas the same windfall tax they have to banks and life insurers?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, we share the honourable member's concern and commitment to the climate crisis and addressing it. And Mr. Speaker, that's why we are spending $9.1 billion on our emissions reduction plan, which is an ambitious sector-by-sector path for Canada to reach our 2030 emissions on our way to 2050 net zero. Mr. Speaker, it has broad support from environmental groups, from industry to farmers. And Mr. Speaker, it's going to deliver clean air, a healthy environment, and a strong economy.
Afraid that's all the time we have for today, and c'est tout le temps que nous avons. Oh, we have a point of order. The honourable member for Grand Lake, Miramichi.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, today in question period, the official opposition cited a March 22 report by the Parliamentary Budget Officer that shows the carbon tax will be a net cost to Canadian families. I'm seeking
I'm afraid that's more debate than it is a point of order. I believe the honourable opposition House Leader is rising on. Well, he's got a question for us. It's Thursday.
Yes, yeah, the one question everyone's all been waiting for, the Thursday question, Mr. Speaker. I was just wondering if the honourable House Leader of the government could update the House as to what we can expect next week, and specifically, will he bring in legislation cancelling the Liberal tax hikes that are due to come into effect January 1st?
The honourable government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker. I, too, always look forward to the Thursday question. But let me take an opportunity first to thank the member from Barrie Innisfil for his service in the role as opposition House Leader. It's a pleasure to work with him. Also say, if I can, Mr. Speaker, to welcome the member for Regina Capel to the new role of Opposition House Leader. We've had some fruitful conversations. I look forward to